of the nervous system.
Basic functions. What's your function? Sorry. Didn't mean to scare you. Did you get a good dendrite out there?
Okay, so the neuron is broken into two main parts. So I'm zooming out so you can see the whole thing, right? So two main parts. I'm going to draw a line like this, kind of a dotted line out, and go this way. And then I'll just kind of a dotted line this way. Okay. This is the cell body. The cell body. So I'm going to zoom in on that right there. So the top part is called the cell body.
So I'm kind of actually asking for my own.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying the cell body, is this whole thing from here to here?
Yep.
Is the cell body?
Mm-hmm.
So would there be a cell wall?
There is not a cell
no?
wall. No, no.
This is the cell.
These are like little frilly things like branches on a tree.
Okay.
And there's a membrane around the whole thing, which would be the cell membrane.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It looks like a tree. Well, hang on. I'll zoom back out. So then the rest of it from about here to the bottom, way down here, this is called the axon. I'll zoom into that word there, axon. Axon, X off. All right. Nice. They say great minds think alike, but I don't know, maybe crazy ones too. I don't know. Yeah. All right, so we've got a cell body, and we've got, let me color that in a little bit, and we've got a axon. We'll talk about both of these in turn. All right, so take a look at the cell body. I'm going to stay at this top part right now. We have all these little branches on here. They are all called dendrites. Dendrites. Zoom in on that so you can see it better. Dendrites, they receive, oops, I bumped that, signals from other, I have cells here, but I think I want to say other neurons. Okay? Or from the outside world. All right. And this is kind of a pain to color in, but, you know, do it anyway. So, about to, what's that? Yep. You want to ask me how many times I've colored it in now?
3 times.
This is my 4th. Yep.
If I guessed it right, would I have been able to skip past the color?
No. If I have to do it at least once, then you have to do it at least once.
Fair enough.
But I've done it more than that because I care about you guys too much. I could be just like any old teacher and just throw up my done picture and say, copy this. Any other science teacher might do that, right?
My science teacher used to just like give us a book and tell us to go ahead.
Well, we don't even have a book, so be happy. You're writing the book as you go.
Oh, I'm an artist. Well, writer.
When you were doing the brain last week, I thought it was interesting that while you were just discussing all the interesting facts about the brain, also there was that visual element going on there, the different segments get colored in.
Yeah, you're right. It is cool. We are the universe looking at ourselves. All right, this part right here I'm about to fill in with color purple. You can color it any colors you want, by the way. I don't care. I don't know what color neurons are. That's a good question. What color are neurons? Oh, I don't think, you can look it up, but I don't know.
I feel like they're blue. I don't know why.
Nucleus. So that thing in the center, that's like the brain of the neuron. It controls the functions. Of the neuron. So it controls the functions of the neuron. Now I'll just put that there, of the neuron. All right, can you see that okay, or should I zoom in? Let's zoom in. Nucleus controls the functions of the neuron. Grazie. It's not taking long, you're right. This one isn't as long.
I feel like we're already halfway done.
Okay, so there are these other types of, I want to call them cells. They have special functions, all right? They're called glial cells. So I'm going to jot this down. I think I'm going to put it right here. So there's these things called glia, G-L-I-A, glia. Now these are specialized specialized cells that perform certain jobs. Let's just say jobs, okay? So glial cells are really, really important. They help the neurons in a lot of different ways. There's two I'm going to talk about in specifically. One of them is this coating right here, which you guys can kind of see that. Okay, good. All right. And the other one is this little thing inside the coating. Okay. So I'll go through both of them. The first one here is a glia called the myelin sheath. I heard somebody say sheath. Good job. Was that you? All right, good. That's kind of a fatty substance, but it is a super important substance. Have you ever grabbed a bare wire before that was plugged in?
Yeah.
Hurts, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, but if I go over to the wall or even pick up one of these wires, I don't get shocked. Why?
It's covered up.
It's covered up by what?
Wire, rubber.
Like rubber or some kind of a non-conducting material, right? All right, so the neurons are an electrical system. There is an electrical impulse being sent through the neuron. So as you get older, your body starts producing more of this myelin sheath, which then starts to coat your neurons better. And so as your brain gets further developed, those neurons that get the most use are the neurons that get the best myelin sheath, because those are the pathways that are going to be used a lot. Okay? So this myelin sheath is the insulation layer. That keeps signals from shorting out.
So, when we were talking about the Schwann cells
Yes.
yesterday?
Yeah, the Schwann cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where the tumors on that.
Yeah. The myelin sheath?
Huh?
Which one are you talking about? The Schwann cells or the myelin?
Schwann cell.
The Schwann cells.
The vesicle schwannoma.
Is it really what it is then?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a tumor that develops on the Schwann cells in your something nerve system or the root.
in your central nervous system, or which nervous system? It's probably the CNS, right? Because that's found in your brain.
Well, vesicle is in my ear, is your ear.
But that's part of your, oh, so maybe it's the peripheral.
I think that's the specific area is the vestibule.
Vestibule, okay, which could be the central, that could be the peripheral nervous system then, right? Because that's where the senses come in, right? Okay. All right, so I'm coloring these in while I'm waiting for y'all to get caught up. Maybe you're already caught up. Maybe some of you are already done. That's awesome.
Yeah, so the Schwannoa means that that's where it's at, or
Okay.
that's where it is on the nerve.
Interesting.
Vestibule is in my area.
So it's not growing, is it? So,
Well, I haven't had it looked at in a couple of years.
oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say, it's just like it's a little mini me then.
It's a very slow growing.
Oh, that's good. I'd rather just not even be there personally.
I really can't even find it anymore.
That's good. Okay.
Well, I should say that I had it looked at.
They couldn't find it? All right, so those were the myelin sheaths. Now, if you know anybody who has Parkinson's or anybody who has Alzheimer's or some dementia, those affect the myelin sheath, because what they do is they short circuit the brain and the signals that are coming from the brain. So the degradation of the myelin sheath is what some of these, they're kind of narrowing it down to what's causing some of these degenerative diseases. I'm thinking it might even have something to do with other things like, now I can't think of them.
I remember
Multiple
reading an
sclerosis.
article a while ago about like if you're an athlete and you're working on speed, fast twitch stuff, that somehow the myelin sheath plays a role in the communication of that signal or something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but it's like that's one of the ways, you know, why you're improving that almost like circuitry
Yes.
and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I did say that if the things that you do the most will have the best pathways, so they'll be the most maintained. So if you spend all day long just scrolling through the internet, you're going to have a lot of trouble sitting down and reading a book, you know, because that's not what you're focusing on. If you watch nothing but YouTube videos or play video games, those are the pathways you're creating that are going to be strong. Okay, they may not necessarily be the ones you need to hold down a job, okay, to schedule your time better, things like that. So all of this stuff adds up. So the things that you spend the most time focusing on are going to be those things that are the strongest pathways in your brain. And so I don't know if you remember the Teenage Brain Explained video I showed about 3 weeks ago. He was saying that at your age right now, you're creating those pathways that are going to be strengthened. So this is why it's time for you to learn how to play an instrument or learn a language or really work hard on your math skills and things like that. Because the less time you spend trying, the less pathways you're going to have in your brain to get things done, and you're going to struggle. Okay? And learning is a struggle. Creating these pathways and making them work is work. It's good for you. It's good stuff. All right, so myelin sheath is a glial cell that keeps the insulating layer and keeps the signal moving, right? But there's a cell that's adhered to the surface. It's another type of glial cell, and it's called a Schwann cell, S-C-H-W-A-N-N cell. So it is a Schwann cell. I don't even know. It must be named after the guy who discovered it. Yeah. All I can think of is the Schwartz. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. All right, so Schwann cells, they're actually in charge of making the myelin. So they produce the myelin sheath. So that is their particular job and their function. So they produce the myelin sheath. So they produce the fatty substance that then gets kind of gooped around the outside. Now you're probably like, well, why isn't there a something around the whole thing? Well, that's the cool thing about our cells. They don't have to be completely covered. Now, having some good, strong myelin sheath is important, but there also needs to be these spaces here, and these are called the nodes of Ranvier. I know this is a fun word. I only put it on here because I know what it is. The nodes of Ranvier.
It sounds like a medieval.
I know, that's what I was thinking. That is almost like a fantasy book or something, right? But really, the whole function of the nodes of Ranvier is, I think in my paperwork it says it's for ionization, or the diffusion of ions. So this has a little bit to do with, I'm just going to put this on here. Diffusion, and I have trouble understanding diffusion, but diffusion is like, think of evaporation, or a balloon. Think of a balloon. You fill up a balloon, you come back a week later, and it's kind of deflated a little bit, right? So the membrane that makes up the balloon is not completely sealed like you would think it is. It's a membrane that allows air to kind of move back and forth a little bit. So the nodes of Ranvier, they allow for substances to go in and out of them. So I'll just put that on here. They allow, and I'm going to say, yeah, let's just allow substances to go in and out through what's called diffusion. So there's either tiny little spaces in the cell membrane, or there's channels in the membrane that allow things to go in and out. It gets kind of complicated. That's why I just want you to get the idea that they have to be able to allow things to go in and out of this, which helps it with the flow of energy, okay? The message is going around. Yes? I sure can. Let me get right to there and zoom in some more. So it allows substances to go in and out through diffusion. And diffusion, again, is just allowing substances to go in and out of it, okay? Have you ever done an egg where you put the egg in vinegar and leave it for a few days? Oh, it's kind of fun. Try it. Yeah, so it's kind of like osmosis. If you understand the idea of osmosis, then you kind of have a little bit of a more understanding of diffusion then. Yeah, it is a lot of how cells will take in nutrients and get rid of wastes and things like that, is through this idea of diffusion.
So the vinegar penetrates into the cell?
Say that?
The egg, the vinegar will penetrate into the egg?
Yes, but also it'll get rid of the shell on the outside, and it turns the egg kind of rubbery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's that? You can chuck it, I'm sure, but I don't know if I've bounced it, but I haven't chucked it at anyone. I don't know. When you put the egg in vinegar and leave it until it becomes all rubbery.
Drop it, it breaks, and it's just like water inside.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you
depending on the hole,
It's just, it's a water balloon.
So it's like a bad smelling water balloon. I like it. All right. So let's color some of this in. We're almost done. We're almost there. I got to get a nice color. How about green? Green sounds good. All right, let me zoom out. We are going to go down to this bottom part here in just a second. So I'm going to color this all in, make it look all nice and scribbly. Okay, good. I'm done. Sort of. All right. So the very bottom part here, each one of these tiny little bulbs at the end are called axon Cut down there, let me zoom in. This is gonna zoom, this is gonna focus, 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 focus. There it goes. Axon terminals. All right, these terminals form junctions. Okay, what's a junction? How many of you have done any electrical work? Do you know what a junction is? What's a junction box? You've heard of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Anybody done any construction work? Nobody? All right, a junction box is where a bunch of wires come together. All right, so you might be walking around in your basement, maybe in an unfinished basement, and you look up and there's a bunch of, I think, do they use pipes here for the wires in Belvedere? Okay, so they got all these pipes. They got these silver pipes. They all come up to a silver box that's got, it's just a square and a bunch of pipes going in. That's a junction box. A bunch of wires are all coming together. So axon terminals, they form junctions between neurons. Between neurons. So what they are, their job is they kind of like allow for messages to jump across. So they will send messages from one neuron to the other. So if I was to draw something on here that kind of connects these, this is the axon terminals, and then we've got dendrites. This is a very terrible dendrite. These dendrites then, that's what this end is. These are the dendrites, remember? So the dendrites will receive or send messages from here. Okay, they'll jump across the chasm. And again, it gets kind of complicated. Yes, yeah, you're right. So yeah, you don't have to write this down, but it's across the synapse. Synapse. And again, it's kind of like with diffusion, it gets really complicated. There's a lot of chemicals involved and molecules. And if you're really interested in it, I'd say start doing some research and think about going to college if this stuff is like, whoa, this is cool. I mean, this is biology, psychology. Yeah, but you don't have to go to college. You can just learn about it. Yeah, just jump on YouTube, find a couple videos. All right, so what else are we doing with this? I think we're done with this part. So what I want you to do is, I see one empty tape dispenser. Is there tape dispensers out there? There's one over there, okay. There's some in our room too, there's one over there. So all you're gonna do is take a piece of tape. So here's my CNS, this is my CNS, PNS, my nervous system, right? I took it and I just taped it on one edge. Right underneath is my neuron, all right? And then you're gonna fold it in half like this. And then you're gonna close it. Toss it in the bin. I'm done. I'm done. What's that? That bin, right there. Sure, this is the one I just finished. If we need more tape, there's some tape here. I can open a box. I should shut this off before I forget.